Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm great. I was telling Kevin I'm a little tired this morning.
Well, you work all weekend. That happens, right?
Yep. And I had to work yesterday, so.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it feels like everybody is working right now.
Yeah,
right?
everyone's always tired, right?
Tis the season for all of that.
Very true. Kevin is very involved with us. He's just checking to make sure the feed is live.
Checking to make sure the feed is live, sharing it around. We had a little bit of craziness over the weekend.
So there's a new system we use.
Yeah.
Kevin, I'm very proud. He hit a brick wall, a very firm brick wall, and was able to work around it. So
It's not the same thing in technology applies to ministry, and the same thing in ministry applies to technology. There's just always going to be problems. You just got to find a way around them.
That's right.
So yeah, there's always a way. Where there's a will, there's a way, as they say.
So Kevin worked extra hard for us to be on here this morning. So we're very grateful to join you in whatever space that you are in. So good morning. I have a question for today.
Yeah, I was going to ask what the question is. So
Today
here we go.
is
What is today's question?
your favorite Christmas movie?
Favorite Christmas movie? That's a good one.
Favorite Christmas movie.
Might be some fighting on this one.
Let's see. And if you say, just so you know, if you say Home Alone, you have to tell which Home Alone.
How many are there now? Like
and
10?
Also Grinch is the same way. If Grinch is your favorite, you have to say which Grinch. Because there's multiple, and it makes a big difference in how I feel about it. Maybe not how you do, but how I feel.
There you go.
So while we're chatting this morning, feel free to put in the comments your favorite holiday movie. We're super glad you're on and watching with us as we journey through the Christmas season. Hope you're enjoying
Can I guess your favorite
Jesse tree ornaments.
movie?
We sure are.
Yeah, in fact, we're still getting orders for Jesse tree ornaments, even though we're almost
really?
to the middle of it. Yes, I've got to put a box in the mail tomorrow that's headed to California. So, yeah, don't let me forget that, actually.
It's pretty spectacular. I know some of us, my parents, get those Christ table boxes and somehow they get put to the side and don't open them. But I'm telling you, this one I was kind of a naysayer through it. I was like, there's no like fun stuff. It's just
Ornaments are fun.
Bible study.
Just a Bible
And I
study.
thought the ornaments were going to be too much. But our family, who had to live and breathe and deal with that, so I thought they certainly wouldn't want to be involved, have absolutely loved doing.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes we do studies and we send them out to people and materials, and then our family is
Our kids are like, nope.
Yeah, no. But this one, we literally, we have to stop it, but it goes for 30 or 40 minutes every night at the table.
No, please don't think that we have some super deep spiritual discussion.
It's
for 30 or
chaos.
40
It is
minutes.
mass pandemonium.
It's literally our children trying to throw Kevin off his game, and we really should do a live dinner table, just so y'all could have
I'm not
some
sure.
fun.
I'm not sure that anybody wants to see that.
It's pretty fun, but it has been at all ages too, all the way from our sophomore to our second grader have been involved in some part of the process. So I encourage you, if you've not gotten into that or tried it with your family, or if you don't have one, there's still time. There's still 2 weeks till Christmas. So it has definitely been a fun little rhythm for us. And we love seeing yours. A couple people have shared them online, doing them with their kids and Facebook and stuff. Love seeing that. So let us know. The Jesse tree. See?
Yeah, the hunting for the ornament is always, in that little bag.
Looks like a bag of coins.
It does.
Should be a lot of money in there.
Poker chips, but
yeah.
Are you telling on yourself from your?
No, I've never played poker. I don't even know how.
Yeah. So favorite holiday movie.
Brenda gave
favorite
us one.
Christmas movie.
Oh, how did we know this one?
Yeah. This one's pretty fitting for.
Yes. This is the.
I think I would probably. It's tough. I have a tough one on this. I think my favorite. It's too tough.
What?
Home Alone 2 is the best Home Alone.
Yes, with the younger generation, I learned with 7th graders, Home Alone 1 is the better one. FYI, they think Home Alone 2 is.
Well, Home Alone 2 is the same movie as Home Alone 1. They just did it better.
White Christmas.
It's just the same. White Christmas is a.
I've never seen White Christmas.
You've never seen White Christmas?
I'm sure it's been on.
It's a classic.
It's black and white, right?
No.
Okay. I thought it was. Sorry, Ramona.
No, it's
You're
not.
skipping Brenda's.
No, I'm just skipping around. Yeah.
Oh.
Another one for Christmas vacation
Vacation.
here. Yeah, I was going to say Home Alone 2, Christmas
Park.
Vacation, and then, Christmas Carol. Christmas Carol is another one of those where you kind of have to define which Christmas Carol.
That is true.
I enjoy all of them, but I think probably the 1984 with George C. Scott is my favorite Christmas Carol, except for the Muppets.
Yes, Kevin loves the Muppets Christmas
Carol.
Carol.
Muppet Christmas Carol, even if you don't like the Muppets, I will argue this to my grave, has the best Scrooge of any of them.
Is it you?
No, the Scrooge in Muppet Christmas Carol is by far the best portrayal of Scrooge, in my humble opinion, of any of the Christmas carols.
Yeah. I think it's different too, like what movie you watch on like Christmas Eve, like you have to watch to say, check, I watched the classic, and what movie, like last night I wanted to sit down and just watch a movie. Like, what would I want to do?
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, definitely a classic,
was
on this week. Frosty was on last night.
Yep.
I think I know what your favorite is.
I don't know if I know, so.
It's a Wonderful Life?
That's my favorite classic, but that's not like I want to sit down and have a thing of popcorn and just enjoy a Christmas movie.
Okay.
Mine would be probably, I don't know, Home Alone or Elf. I really like Elf too.
Yeah, Elf fits.
I need a good like rom-com Christmas holiday. So I don't know.
They have lots of those. Die Hard?
That's not one. I know there's a new one that's just in the theaters. My 7th graders were telling me about Violent Nights.
I don't think that's.
I know it's not a rom-com. But I'm just saying.
It doesn't sound like a rom-com.
We're about to lose our time. Hey, if you're not a part of Christ Table, we would love for you to go to this website and sign up to get emails. ChristTable.today. You're in giving. I keep saying it. Yeah, we have big things in the works, and we so appreciate you helping us get to do this ministry and bring it to
many
lots
of you
people.
have given extra this month, and we appreciate that a lot. It helps us bridge the gap between what we spend and what our need is.
Yeah, helps us plan. So help us dream, please. Thanks for everything you guys do and being a part of this community. Share it, and let's see what is in the future for all of us.
There's a new Christmas movie too, Spirited, which I don't know that I can.
Yeah, I don't think.
I don't know that I can recommend, but it's a very creative. It's hard to think of something new.
Please preview before you share with your children.
Yeah. Please.
Good morning. We are going to begin by singing a Christmas mashup, one of my favorite kind of songs to sing. And this one spans from Handel's Messiah to the 90s Christian hit Open the Eyes of My Heart. So I hope that you recognize at least one of these and hop in, and we're going to celebrate the coming of our Savior together. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. The Messiah, oh, to see him high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. The Messiah, oh, to see him high and lifted up, shining in the light of your glory. Pour out your power and love as we sing, holy, holy, holy. 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 For unto us a child is born. Holy, holy, holy. For unto us a child is born. Holy, holy, holy.
Thank you, Maggie. Maggie will be back in just a few minutes to sing some more music. The final song that she has slated for today, I had never actually heard before, so it was a new one to me. Beautiful. So looking forward to that. Communion coming up just a little bit later, so make sure you have something in order to receive communion, even if it's not bread or grape juice or wine, whatever you have on hand.
Kevin has bread instead of Christmas tree cakes this week.
Yes, assuming the bread maker doesn't mess up along the way. It should be going off somewhere. I'm not a pessimist. I'm a realist.
He's a pessimist. I mean, seriously.
Well, you promise bread, and then if it's not here, they're going to be like, what's going on? We don't even have Christmas tree cakes. We cannot keep those things in the house. They're like, can I say it's like crack? No, I can't say that.
They're very good.
It's like cracked popcorn around here.
I love that.
You
popcorn
cannot
with a
keep
little
it
drizzle
in
of
the house.
chocolate on it.
Yeah. Which the Christmas tree cakes,
Which,
now they have Christmas tree cake ice cream in Walmart. What? Hands.
But Christmas tree cakes you can still get at Walmart. The popcorn with the chocolate drizzle on it cannot.
Yes, because Sally has bought every bag of popcorn with drizzle in the tri-state area.
We don't live in a tri-state.
That was an allusion to Phineas and Ferb.
All right, so let's move on. We are so glad you're here. If you're just tuning in and missed our
Welcome
conversation.
to Christ Table.
This is Kevin.
Yeah.
And I'm Sally. And we're so grateful to join you for this Christmas season and season of Advent. And if you're looking at the chat, what was going on? We were talking about our favorite Christmas movies.
Favorite Christmas movies.
So feel free to add to that if you would like. And
lots of opinions there.
Lots of opinions. We like opinions.
Yeah. So one of the things that we do around here is spend some time in prayer. And this time of year, I feel like we are more aware of the needs, both of ourselves and of other people. Maybe it's just because there's so much joy and so much of Christmas is wrapped up in the past. And anytime you kind of walk down memory lane, it kind of opens up sometimes some of those things that were wounds that haven't healed well with families or with hurt or heartache. And so we want to make sure that wherever you are this morning, whatever you may be struggling with or carrying with you, that you recognize that you're not doing it alone.
Yes. So feel free to put those prayer requests in the chat, and praises too. We love to hear about successful things that are going on, but I used to feel the pressure when I'd put a prayer request to always put a praise, so I wasn't like mean to God and like not being thankful. I don't think that's how God works.
God can take it.
God just wants us to communicate with him.
He already knows what you're thinking. He already knows what you carry.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to play. Don't have to pretend.
Yeah. So feel free to send us your prayer requests. I know in our city, there's a situation at the local high school that definitely has been on the forefront of my mind to be praying for, and just praying for our students this week. All of our middle school and high school students probably across the country are going through midterms or exams, which to us as adults, we look back and go, oh, they're exams. But to kids in their world, it's a really big deal. It's affecting a lot of the things that they dream about. And they don't have the perspective that once you're through college and all that it's, so really praying for the mental health of our middle high school students this next 2 weeks for our kids. But
well, and I think, we forget sometimes that kids, even though it's the most wonderful time of the year for them, can carry and feel a lot of the stress that we're carrying and feeling. They too, if they've lost loved ones, they'll carry that of this season. And if, things are kind of off in the home or off at school, it can be a hard time if everybody else seems happy and you don't. So kids, definitely, I think that's a great reminder for us to not just assume that everybody around us is okay.
Yeah. Check in on your people and really listen. That's what I'm learning is when you check in on people that you want to I always instantly want to go to, oh, I understand. Let me tell you about mine. That's not the right.
Yeah.
Well, for some people it is.
Well, and I think it'd go the second step. How you doing? I'm doing great. How you doing? Let them know it's not just conversation. Like you really do care.
Yeah. So check on your people, but we're going to check on them in prayer, and we do throughout the week as well. But just an encouragement to something I noticed this week that I did not think about.
Yeah, and if it's too deep or too long to write out, feel free to just put. And I see a few of them rolling up here. Unspoken request or please pray for me, but also feel free to put it all in there or send it all to us in direct message if that feels more comfortable. Each and every one of these do get prayed for.
And we would love, as you know, for you to reach out to someone else's name you see in the chat and say, hey, I saw you mention unspoken. Is there something specific I can pray about? That's where ministry really happens when
or instead across. Of inquiring, just say,
I'm praying.
Hey, I'd pray for you.
Either way.
All right, let's pray.
All right, let's pray. Dear God, thank you so much for today. Thank you for a new day. And just December keeps coming day after day. And God, we thank you for this time of year where we get to get so excited about your birth. We get to get so excited about family time and traditions and things that set rhythms in our world. But God, we also know in these times it can be very hard. Finances can be stressful, and Time with family can be stressful, God. And so we just pray for you to work in our hearts these next few days before the holidays actually hit, God. Help us to prepare and make room for you. Help us to truly invite you to be a part of our daily life so that we can face whatever struggle is in front, whatever finances or family or job or school is out there with you, a part of it, God. It's so much easier, or at least we know we have somebody with us. So God, I pray for the unspoken prayer requests that are coming in. I pray that you will be with each person in their house or wherever they are watching, and speaking hope and speaking truth and speaking patience and perspective to whatever situation they're looking at, facing, worrying about, or uncertain about, God. We know the best thing in the world is that you will sit with us through it all. You will already know. You're not surprised by whatever has happened this week. You'll sit with us. God, I do take a moment to pray for our students. I pray for kids that are facing finals this week, or midterms, whatever you call them, college students, high school, middle school, and just the weight of those grades, the pressure that is on them. God, help them to relax into you, help them to study well and remember, but God, give them your peace and your perspective that this too shall pass. And I pray for the families that these students represent, that they can be a place of peace and joy. That maybe everything's not calm and perfect, but there's a calming and perfect force in the midst of the uncalm and imperfect. God, we love you. We need you. Help us to have some intentionality this week to reach out and check on someone, to do the second check, as Kevin said, to be intentional to check on our people, check on someone, and let us be a light of hope. God, I pray also for this next weekend and Christmas as it comes, that if there's someone who isn't real sure, or maybe is upset with the church or with you, or that we know in our lives that maybe this would be a safe space to invite them to engage. Maybe there's a time and a place where we can show them a little glimpse into a community of people that are trying to do it right, that are trying to love people with different opinions, that are trying to be the church as you designed it to be. So we love you. We give you today. We give you this week, and we hope and pray that you make Christ's table what you need it to be at this specific time, and show us exactly what you need each one of us to do as a part of the body, God. We love you, and we give you today. And together we pray.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Oh, come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold Christ the Lord. His name shall be Wonderful Counselor. His name shall be Everlasting Father. His name shall be Prince of Peace, Mighty God. His name shall be Emmanuel. We'll praise your name forever. We'll praise your name forever. We'll praise your name forever. Christ the Lord. His name shall be Wonderful Counselor. His name shall be Everlasting Father. His name shall be Prince of Peace, the Mighty God. His name shall be Emmanuel. Jesus, we love you. Oh, how we love you. You are the one our hearts adore. The hopeless have found it. Oh,
So this morning, we find ourselves in Ruth. Now, if you're not aware of what we're doing, we are walking through the story of Jesus' family tree. This is kind of an old way, almost like 1,000 years old way of walking through the story of the Hebrew texts, what we call the Old Testament, to the story of Jesus. And so we're learning about Jesus' family tree, some characters who are on that family genealogical tree. And we're also looking at some stories that really show the heart of God and some of the holes in the world that Jesus will ultimately come to fill. So we are somewhere in the neighborhood of the middle of that story as we find ourselves in the book of Ruth, chapter 1, verse 15, all the way through chapter 2, verse 12. Now, it's super hard to jump into this story of Ruth without just telling the entire story. So I would encourage you, maybe even after Christmas is over, if you're looking for something to do over break or into January, coming back to this story of Ruth and just reading the entire thing. It's a wonderful, wonderful story. But I will admit, as many wonderful stories are prone to do, they don't actually begin that way. I think if you look at the lives of some of the world's greatest and most important individuals, if you go back far enough in the story of their journey, you will find that the people who reached the greatest pinnacles of success, achievement, character in the world have a lot of brokenness and difficulty in their past, many times which drives them to those highest heights. This is how the story of Ruth begins. Brokenness with death. For those of you who may be grieving this time of year, who may have empty chairs around the table or at the foot of the tree, the story of Ruth really understands those feelings. We are actually starting in the story of Ruth with Naomi. It shifts to Ruth a little later on. Naomi was an Israelite who moved away from home with her husband, 2 sons, and then tragedy comes to her house. Her husband dies, but at least she has her 2 sons. Her 2 sons are married, so she has daughter-in-laws there. So as difficult as I'm certain as that was for Naomi, at least she has some family around her. But it isn't far into the story where 10 years later, the text tells us both Mahlon and Chilion, those are her 2 sons, died. This left Naomi alone, 3 deaths, the men in her family, without her 2 sons or her husband. What a depressing way to start the story. I know. It does get better from here, but for Naomi, we don't necessarily want to rush through that. I think, this time of year, if you're feeling a little not so merry, other people can be a little uncomfortable with that, right? I mean, you understand. maybe you've done this. I'm certain I've done this before, is whenever somebody this time of year, when everyone else is making merry and they seem gloomy or depressed, you end up sometimes just saying something along the lines of, just get over it, or just pretend, or they would want you to be happy. That doesn't help. The story of Naomi, actually the way the Bible and the writer of the book of Ruth paints this is Naomi really is a female Job. Now, if you know the story of Job, Job essentially loses everything and then has to reconcile the question of how do I understand God whenever what could have been prevented was not prevented. How this pain and suffering and loss could have been stopped by God if God had wanted to, but it happened. And so it feels as though God didn't come through for me. Those are deep questions. And this is the one that begins the book of Ruth. What do we do whenever trouble strikes unexpectedly and a God who has the power to prevent that sorrow doesn't? Now, I wish that I could wrap all this up in a nice little bow and answer that question and make it all pretty and wipe away all of the struggles and the wrestles with that question. But the reality of it is that I can't. I can help, but I feel as though God seems to want us to wrestle with how we respond whenever life doesn't make sense, or whenever other people or God himself doesn't react the way that we wanted them to. What do we do? It's a difficult question, and all of us, frankly, answer it differently. And I think the way that we respond to that question, the way we respond when troubles come, really tells the story of our true faith. It's easy to follow God. It's easy to believe in others whenever they're doing what we want them to do. But where the rubber meets the road, it's whenever things don't go our way that we find out whether or not we truly have faith in others and whether or not we're truly capable and willing of loving even when we simply don't understand. So Naomi has a choice to make. So Naomi says to her daughters-in-law, look, go back to your families. I'm going to go back to my home, back in Israel, and you go to your families in Moab. Look, Naomi says to Ruth, your sister-in-law has already gone back to her people, to her gods. My son, her husband, has passed away. I have nothing left for her. She's nothing here anymore. So she's gone. So Ruth, you should do the same. But Ruth is going to choose a different path. She replies, don't ask me to leave you and turn back. And this is maybe one of the high watermark statements in the Hebrew scriptures. Wherever you go, I will go, Ruth says to Naomi. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord punish me severely if I allow anything but death to separate us. And when Naomi saw that Ruth was determined to go with her, Naomi said nothing more. What we see here in Ruth is an unrequired, unnecessary, unwise, and maybe even unnerving commitment. I mean, think about it for just a moment. Ruth is committing to go with Naomi to a place where Ruth is not wanted. She is an outsider. She is a Moabite. She is not, though she is a follower and a believer, obviously, in the Israelite God, Yahweh, she will not be accepted by the Israelites. There is a long history of hate and disconnection from Moabites in particular. And so Ruth is committing to follow Naomi back into a place where she will not be welcome and will not be accepted. She's not required to go there with Naomi. It's somewhat unnecessary for her to do that because she will be of no help, it would seem, there, because it's likely that nobody will allow her to work or to have any opportunity to help Naomi. It's unwise, perhaps even unsafe, and it's a little unnerving for her to commit to doing this. Why are you choosing this old woman, Naomi, over the possibility of being able to get married, to have a family, to to live your life. Why are you giving your life to somebody else? This is an unnerving, unusual, and weird commitment. And we read this as Christians today, and we think, oh, Ruth, this is so wonderful. This is beautiful. This is an extraordinary picture. And it is, but it's also just plain weird. It's just plain odd. But this is the decision that she makes. So the two of them, verse 19 says, continue on their journey. And when they come to Bethlehem, the entire town was excited by their arrival. Is it really Naomi? The women of the city ask. And this is the worst English translation of any that I have almost ever seen in Scripture, because this New Living Translation paints the Hebrew text as being excited that Naomi is finally home. She has been away for so long, and now, is it really Naomi? Is she here? We are excited about it, and that's not the way it's written in the Hebrew. Now, can you take the Hebrew that way? Yes, but it is a very small percentage of translations of this word into English where it's taken that way. Usually it's taken in the opposite way. When it says that they were excited by their arrival, quite literally what it says is they were shocked by their appearance. So it's a shock. And shock is usually not a positive thing. Shock is something where things don't add up. And so there's friction here in the Hebrew. Why is there friction here in the Hebrew when they see her? Why is there shock? Why is there awe? Why is there surprise? Because the feeling was, Naomi, how could you ever show your face around here again? So it wasn't that they were excited by Naomi's arrival. They were shocked. Their jaws were on the ground by Naomi's arrival. Well, why would they think that? Well, because Elimelech, her husband, and Naomi left everybody else behind during a famine. So things got bad, and they ran to the enemy, to the hated people, in order to get food and to stay alive. It would be as though things are bad in Ukraine, and so a Ukrainian family of great upstanding responsibility in the Ukrainian government, whenever things get bad, they run to Russia so that they can eat. That is essentially what Naomi would have been viewed, and Elimelech would have been viewed as they went to the worst place possible in order to avoid dealing with what everybody else was dealing with. They took care of themselves. Now, we don't know if that's what happened, we know that's what happened. We don't know if that's why they left or why they went. But we certainly know that they would not have received a welcome wagon when they returned back to Ukraine or back to home. And not only did they come back, but Naomi has the audacity to bring one of those Moabite women with her. Yeah, they were saying, is it really Naomi? What they're really communicating here is, you're dead to us. Who are you? You are not allowed to be in these parts. Go back to where you went. We don't want you around here. How could you even show up here at all, traitor? Naomi is a strong woman. And so is Ruth. To walk willingly back into this context of, did you notice the city? Did you notice where home is for Naomi? Bethlehem. These people who are rejecting Naomi and shocked that she would be back here to show her face now with Ruth, these are the people of Bethlehem, whose descendants will one day have a very similar reaction to the arrival of someone else. So Naomi and Ruth arrive in Bethlehem, and this is where the story gets good. But that's all the time we have for today. Well, okay, I'll take a couple more minutes. So our ornament for today is this grain stalk, this wheat stalk. Now you may have been wondering why that is. Bethlehem is known. In fact, the word Bethlehem in Hebrew means house of bread. Now, I could probably preach another 2 sermons on this whole idea of Bethlehem being the house of bread, Jesus being the bread of life, the table, communion, Eucharist, Ruth, Naomi in the house of bread. Ruth is going to try to find grain. There was this law from the Hebrew text from the Old Testament that said that if you own land, whenever you took the harvest from the land, that there was a requirement that you leave some behind for other people who did not have any other way to receive. And so women would come into the fields after they had been harvested and pick up what they could that had been dropped, that had been left behind. If the landowner was a shrewd business person, they would leave little to nothing behind in the harvest. If the landowner was a kind and gracious individual who understood God and their faith and the reason for why that Mosaic law was in place, then they would tell their workers to intentionally leave things behind. Don't pull it all out in the harvest so that others may have some. And this is our responsibility and our blessing. And it seems as though the place where Ruth finds herself gleaning was that kind of place. And she, being a Moabite woman and being allowed to glean there, gives us a double indication of the faith and the love and the radical nature of acceptance that is in this field that she is fortunate to have found herself gleaning within. So the owner of the field shows up. His name is Boaz, and he notices Ruth. I don't know why he notices Ruth. Perhaps it was because of her beauty. Perhaps it was simply because he recognized that she was not one of them, that she was a Moabite. But he notices her and he inquires to the workers about her, and they fill him in on what they know. To which Boaz responds by going over to Ruth and saying, "Listen, my daughter," verse 8, "stay right here with us when you gather grain. Don't go to any other fields." That's both because he's going to bless her and probably because he knows how she will be treated in other places. Stay right behind the young women who are working in my field. See which part of the field they're harvesting in and then follow them. I have warned the young men not to treat you roughly. I've told them to keep their hands off of you. When you're thirsty, I want you to drink the same water that the workers drink, that they have drawn from the well. You don't need to draw it yourself. In those days, it was a woman's responsibility to draw the water, not the men's drawing it for the women. He tells her, let the men do the work for you. They won't bother you. Ruth falls at his feet and thanked him warmly. You have to understand, he's not just given her water. He's not just given her bread. Do you realize what he's given her? She thanked him warmly because he's given her life. What have I done to deserve such kindness? She responds. I am only a foreigner. And Boaz laughs and says, yeah, I know that's pretty obvious. But I also know about everything that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, and I have heard how you left your father and your mother and your own land to live here among complete strangers. Boaz says, I know your story. And Boaz says, I know how you responded to tragedy. You see, when you're Job, when you're Naomi, You simply don't get to choose the tragedies that come into your life. I don't get to choose the tragedies that come into my life. But you know what I do get to choose? You know what I do have control of? I have control of how I respond. I have control of what I do after the strike hits. And Ruth's response changes the trajectory of her life. It opens doors that never would have been opened. In fact, Ruth becomes an ancestor of Jesus. King David, 4 or 5 generations or so down the road from Ruth. And then from Jesus, King David. From David, King Jesus. May the Lord, the God of Israel, Boaz says to her, under whose wings you have come to take refuge, reward you fully for what you have done. So there, in a field just outside of the city of Bethlehem, we see God weave a tragedy into his perfect plan. Respond well, and you will too. And you know, it's not a far leap to jump from here into Christmas to say that a few generations down the road, a few hundred years, in that very same land, there will be sheep watched by shepherds who will be visited by angels. Not too far from where they're standing. In fact, who knows? Maybe right on this location. Maybe Boaz's field is the place where one day, a few centuries down the road, there would be a barn where a little baby would be born and laid in a manger. Right there in Bethlehem, just like happened with Ruth generations before, right there in Bethlehem, with Mary and Joseph present, we see God weave the tragedies of all the generations of humanity until that moment into his perfect plan, swaddled, laying in a manger. And because of that child in Bethlehem, God continues to weave tragedies into his perfect plan.